The human race made its first contact with extraterrestrials in 1971. Now, this may sound like one of those crackpot conspiracy theories, but it actually happened in a fictional parallel universe. If you're German and a serious fan of science fiction, you might recognize the premise. This is Perry Rhodan, which holds the distinction of being the longest-running science fiction series in the world. It's not on TV though, it's published in print form with a new installment every week. It's a cheap pamphlet, usually 66 pages long, very similar in fact to the old-fashioned American pulp magazines that were all the rage back in the 1960s. The first installment went on sale in September 1961. It was originally planned as a serial novel that would span a maximum of maybe 50 installments, but that was over 57 years ago and it is still going strong now. Since then, there has been a new installment every single week. Not one week has been missed out, and the 3000th installment goes on sale this weekend. Of course, these days, although there is still a print version, it's also available in ebook form. It would be very puzzling if a popular sci-fi epic didn't embrace modern technology. The story concerns American astronaut Perry Rhodan, who in 1971, so from the perspective of the first installment 10 years in the future, is on a manned mission to the dark side of the moon and discovers a marooned alien spacecraft. When he returns to Earth, Rhodan refuses to hand over the secrets of this alien technology to the big superpowers of the day, instead building an independent city in the middle of the desert. To cut a long story short, he succeeds in uniting humanity and leads them, thanks to his newly acquired technology, to the stars. He and the people with him are rather conveniently granted the gift of relative immortality. It's relative because they can't die of disease or old age, but they can die by other means. And so the story continues thousands of years into the future, but there is still an element of jeopardy because Rhodan can still be killed. And so you have in Perry Rhodan a hugely complex saga that continually expands and builds on itself. And also, in our universe, it helped to end the Cold War. If you're as old as I am, you might remember that time in 1987 when an 18-year-old German called Matthias Rust violated Soviet airspace and succeeded in landing a Cessna on Red Square. That was an extremely risky adventure. He could have been shot down. In fact, he should have been shot down. The fact that he wasn't and instead was able to cause panic by landing a plane next to the Kremlin was seen as a major failure of the Soviet military. And this gave the leader, Mikhail Gorbachev, the perfect excuse to fire several top-ranking military officials who were opposed to his reforms. I'm not saying that the Cold War wouldn't have ended without Rust, but he certainly made it easier. And where did Perry Rhodan fit into all of this? Rust cited him as one of his inspirations. Like Rhodan, he wanted to unite humanity. However, I don't recommend trying this yourself. Rust was, and I should emphasize this point, very lucky to survive. The stories have been translated into other languages, and some of them, although not all of them, into English. George Lucas claims that Perry Rhodan was one inspiration behind some of the elements of Star Wars. The Dutch astronaut André Kuipers was inspired to become an astronaut by Perry Rhodan. In 2004, he took his first ever Rhodan book with him to the International Space Station, the Dutch translation of issue number 10. Oh, and there is also a Perry Rhodan movie, but it got really bad reviews from fans and critics alike. There is an English language dub available on DVD, but the original German version is only available on VHS, which is probably for the best. And that is the story of the world's longest-serving sci-fi hero. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to send me a postcard, here's the address. And don't forget to visit my website and follow me on Twitter and Facebook. Also, if you'd like access to special bonus content and help with the costs of running this channel, please consider making a small monthly donation on Patreon.